How exactly do you go full-time indie, all while creating bizarre, almost impulsive games from your bedroom that come straight from the heart? Look, if that's your dream, you've got to listen to this podcast with the indie game dev legend, Daniel Mullins. Daniel is the creator of Pony Island.
That's super creepy! Oh God!
Inscription.
Take this and this, and put this here, and then take one of these and put that there. Bada bing, bada boom.
And his latest project, Pony Island 2, Panda Circus. Yes, that's the game's real name. This conversation was easily one of my favorite conversations with a full-time indie. We discussed how he went full-time, and perhaps how you can too. We discuss his strategies for making a rock-solid, profitable indie game, and we even open up the actual project, Inscription, inside of Unity. I think you're going to be surprised just how normal the project looks. It's probably similar to your own projects. But what makes it shine is Daniel's magical ability to make any asset look beautiful and juicy. We jump into all of this, and, well, it's not going to disappoint you. This is a great conversation. And by the way, if you're anything like me and you've always dreamt of getting paid to make your indie games, I have a super cool gift for you. It's a webinar below, totally free, and it's about how to turn a simple 15-minute demo into an actual paycheck. I've secured six figures multiple times with just a demo, ensuring I was able to go full-time indie and pay the bills before even finishing my game. Believe it or not, over 15,000 devs have checked out this free webinar. Now, maybe it's your turn. Click the link below to enroll for free, and you can save it for later, use it as a resource, and watch it whenever you want. I'll see you there. So how did you get to this point? Can you give us the journey from basically, not making games to where you are now, which is, this is your job. I mean, you're getting paid to make crazy ideas that come from your head. And they're crazy. Like, your games are insane. And we'll talk all about your games and how you have the courage. And it truly it takes courage to make games like this because they're so bizarre. But yeah, what's the journey to getting to this point?
Well, yeah, you mentioned like from before I started making games, and I'll try to keep it short because that does go pretty far back. I think I was interested in games from a very young age. Like something like drastically shifted in my brain when I got a Game Boy Color and Pokemon Blue version, and I'd played it before that, and I was like, I need to have this. And then when I had it, I was obsessed with it. And ever since that point, there was probably a part of my brain that was also interested in the making side of it. And I think from an early age, I remember making little I would make custom cards. That's a strong memory of, like, I would print out like a Magic the Gathering or a Yu-Gi-Oh template and then draw in my own portraits and like write in the names. And I got my friends to do that too. So like, I don't know how old I was, but that would be a start. And then like, I was always interested in that. Like another like light went on when I went to my friend's house and he showed me RPG Maker. And I was like, holy shit. Like I was like, you can do this? And I was into those kinds of RPGs at the time. Like on the Game Boy Advance, probably I was playing them. So to see him just like, oh yeah, you can make your own characters and stuff, that was like insane to me. And so I made some games at RPG Maker. And then I got a little older, and in high school, I learned some skills that I still have today, like Photoshop and Flash. I don't use Flash anymore, but there's some fundamentals in there. And I made some Flash games, some goofy stuff. I made like, the Impossible Quiz? That Flash game.
You talk about this in another podcast.
Yeah.
I probably played it in the school library.
Right.
Because that's what everybody did before school started. We'd go to the computer lab and play
really
Flash games.
Dumb, but like actually, no, it's not dumb. The humor is dumb on purpose, but it's quite innovative. Anyway, I made my own one of those. Always doing derivative stuff.
And that was with Flash.
Yeah, that was with Flash.
AS2
that was
or AS3.
Probably was an older version, and I was so had the most minimal programming skills, so I only was like pasting in like snippets that I could hardly understand, trying to make it work. And like making Impossible Quiz was fairly easy from a programming standpoint. I showed that to my friends in the IT class, and like maybe that was my first time someone was like excited. I remember like I showed it to my friend in class, and he came back the next day and he's like, I played it all night and I beat it. And that was like so rewarding, Yeah. That was maybe the first time that it happened. And then, I went to university for computer science. I met a really key friend who was into game jams and got me into that. And we made some mobile games together. Those are the ones I mentioned that probably you wouldn't be able to even find now.
Right.
And then we had some lucky things happen. Like while I was still in school, there was this dude on the internet who saw our first game that almost no one saw. And he was like, I think these guys could make me a game. And he paid us like $5,000 to make a mobile game for him. It was like a children's math game. And like, that was just incredibly lucky that like we got paid for a summer to make a game. And, similar things like that, I guess, happened a lot to me, which accounts for a lot of the success I've had, I think.
That first moment you get paid when you're younger. I mean, I was 18 when I got paid for my first
That's
Flash
pretty
game.
Cool. Yeah.
I think I made $20,000, and I was like,
holy shit. Yeah, that would
what is happening?
Yeah.
I remember I got breakfast with my dad, and I was like, why am I going to college?
Yeah. And what did you do? Did you still go?
I went to college. I did what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
The whole time I was at college, I probably did what you did, which is I'm just going to keep making games and not. I didn't hang out with anybody. I didn't go to parties or anything. I just made games and then tried to finish my degree as fast as I could. So that the moment you get your first dollar from a game, it's such a bizarre feeling. You're like, wait, this is real.
Yeah.
It's actually worth something. So that's awesome that you got to achieve that.
Yeah.
And it was contract work, right? Like
it was contract work. I guess the first game we released technically made dollars, but I knew they were only from family and friends. They're like, I don't know. Maybe the guy who ended up, maybe there was a few like really nice. We did like try to go on Reddit and everything and market it, and I read that was my first like realization. We released it like in the evening for some reason, and I went to bed and I was like, I know I'm being silly, but maybe I'll wake up and hundreds of people have bought this game. Yeah. And of course I wake up and like no one has even looked at it. Of course.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. But that made a few bucks, I guess. But that didn't really, it felt like the contract thing was like, whoa, like this is actually serious.
Yeah.
And then through that brief mobile game journey was how I met my composer, Jonah. He was on Reddit making free music, and he for our third game, which we never finished, sadly, he was offering to make music for it for free. We didn't finish it, but then I was later like, would you allow me to use that music in a different game? That was Pony Island. And then he's like, sure, but I want to make more songs for you. And I think I gave him a revenue percent, but I don't remember if I even paid him up front. And then after the game came out, he told me that he was a high schooler, but he graduated shortly after. But that was a fun realization.
His music, it fits the vibe of your game so perfectly. It's erratic and beautiful. Like there's something messy, and I know that that's not the right word, but there's something messy about your games and their music. The world is just a mess, but in a beautiful way. Oh, it's like it's such a hard thing to pin down. And we'll get into that anyway. Let's keep your story going though. I want to hear how it.
But I guess that's just another example of this lucky thing that happened, right? Like he might not have been as talented, and where would I be? Or or maybe we didn't work out together, and I had to find another composer, and it's just like I happened to find like the dream collaborator by accident. Like I couldn't ask for a better person. He's the only person who's been on all of my games, and I could not ask for a better partner in that. And so anyway, I then I started working in the games industry, like for real. I think having those like earlier projects probably set me up really well in the eyes of employers. So I got like a job here in Vancouver as a programmer. Sadly, lesson learned in the game industry was that the company went out of business within 6 months of my joining. At the time, though, I was young and had very little financial obligations, and I was actually hugely, I did feel bad for the people who really were like invested in that company, but I was really excited actually because I got paid severance leave And I was like, I'd been thinking about an indie game idea. I was like, oh, I'm getting paid for like 2 weeks. I can just start making an indie game. And I made a Kickstarter, and it did not succeed, but it still felt like this important step that I took.
Do you mind if I ask what the Kickstarter was?
Yeah, sure. It's called Catch Monsters. It's a Pokemon meets Hearthstone card-based combat sort of thing.
I'd love to look at it here.
Sure.
It's not even on Kickstarter anymore.
Uh-oh.
I'm looking it up here. I think it'd be valuable to look at this and see kind of why it didn't work.
Last I was aware.
It's on KickTrack, but it's not on Kickstarter.
Maybe they've started culling old failed ones.
I always felt like it was a little unfair for Kickstarter to just leave up the failed projects.
I was happy. Yeah, that's true. But like, it was another thing, and I actually had this confirmed at the next job I got. They were like, "Yeah, you really stood out because you tried to do a Kickstarter and like you were serious."
I think that's
about
great.
It.
Okay, Catch
wait,
Monsters.
I found it.
Really?
Somehow.
Can you send it to me on Discord?
Yeah. Or my closed Discord. Can I send it to the private chat here?
I guess.
At the risk of ruining my audio again.
I think it would be valuable. Daniel, are you okay with us looking at this for the podcast?
Please. Yeah, no,
I think it'd be really valuable.
I'm still proud of it in some ways.
The
only thing that's very cringe about it is the version of me that appears in the video. I don't think I can personally look at that, but you can.
I'm about to share my screen. So hang on.
Okay.
I think it'd be great for us to look at this.
Yeah.
And I'll edit it and make it pretty. What I mean is like so it's not like this.
Yeah. You can blur me out if you want.
Yeah. No. Okay, so Catch Monsters is an adult reimagining of Pokemon that so my first question is, what does that mean?
Well, in hindsight, it sounds a little weird, almost like
it sounds like a hentai game or something.
Yeah, and maybe that was part of the key to this game's failure, because what I was trying to say, and yeah, it sounds weird. I'll take that. What I was trying to do was say that it was like Pokemon is largely directed at children, even though adults enjoy it. And I was trying to say this game has mature things happening.
Yeah.
Like there is death and there's even like weird Pokemon slavery in the game where like there's like
of course there is. You made it.
There's like these Pokemon in the trailer that you'll see that are like mining at this like in this like desert.
This looks like cool already, Daniel. I love this. It feels like classic Flash vibes, you know?
Yes, that I made all the graphics in Flash.
So I'm not listening to the audio because I don't think it's streaming right now to the podcast, but at least we can take a look at it.
There's a pretty cool song in the trailer, but yeah, you can do that later.
Well, maybe it
will.
Oh,
Jesus. No, I wasn't supposed to see that. I want to see a 10-year ago version of myself.
It is always so cringe, especially me doing YouTube. It's like, even looking back last year, I'm like, Thomas, you're such an idiot.
Yeah.
This looks so cool.
Yeah, you know, I'm proud of a lot of the things I did for it.
So yeah, it's basically I have something I call the big butt principle, which what I try and do on YouTube is in the podcast and stuff is I try and put like successful game developers, like how they made their game and put it into a framework. And the framework of the big butt principle, and this helps me a lot, is every great IP usually is some sort of genre or game, but it has a twist.
Right.
So like this would be Pokemon but violent, right? Or Pokemon but horror. So that's what's called the big butt principle. Like every great, especially nowadays where they're rebooting franchises all the time, they're just doing a little trist, right? So I think it's a great twist, Pokemon but horror, right? Or but violent. Is that kind of what it was?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, I think I had big plans for it that like, I think it was lucky that I didn't make the whole thing because I don't think I was really up to make something of that scale. But if I had, I think I would have like striven to make it more nuanced maybe than like simply that. But that description probably makes sense. Like, yeah.
Oh, I'm not critiquing it. I was just curious what you meant by it. But totally. I think,
you're right. That is what I was trying to say with that.
It making it super duper. My project Never Song, I don't know what I was thinking. Look, you can't even find
Yeah,
it.
that's the one of yours that I did play. I got it on itch.io.
It's not great.
Came out. I don't know about that. I mean, I was impressed.
Thanks. So this was my tagline. This is a problem from the creator of Pinstripe. It's like,
Right.
well, who knows that? You know,
Maybe yeah.
some people might know that. And there was so much wrong with this. Like, once upon a coma, there was a boy named Pete who slept quietly in a coma. When he opened his eyes, he found himself in a nightmare. It's like, what? Like, what is that? You know, like,
I don't know. Maybe I'm weird, but like, I like that description. Also, even if I hadn't heard of Pinstripe, maybe I'm not typical here, but I like that it's from the creator of anything. It's like, I'm taking ownership. I have a history, and you can look at my like lineage of games. Like, to me, I like that, but I see what you're saying. But
I think that Kickstarter is so fascinating because half of it is it's a proof of concept, wouldn't you say? Like, if Kickstarter, if it fails, congratulations in a weird way, because it means that you're not going to waste your time.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Totally. And I think that I was saved from that for this game, at least. I was looking at how little I was asking for. Like, that's unbelievably unrealistic. I was asking for that. I mean, it was in Canadian dollars. It was like 6,000 or something.
I mean, you probably would have. I don't know. You probably would have pissed off your backers because you would have released something that's not up to par. You know. Yeah.
And I think I would have not been able to just walk away from it either. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's something we need to talk about, which is when to know when to quit.
Right.
And we'll see if we can jump on that. But anyway, okay, so let's keep going with your story. So you had a failed Kickstarter.
Right. Yes. I forgot we were in a story. Well, so yes, that Kickstarter, like I said, I was upset that it failed, but in hindsight, I think it was a good thing. And I kind of recontextualize it as I'm trying to become an indie developer, and this is like a step toward it. But I did need to make money, so I got another job and at a local company here called Skybox Labs, and they're still around and still doing cool stuff. And while I was there, I definitely leveled up my programming skills a lot. I think I had some really good mentors there and just some great people helping me. Yeah. And during that time, I was still doing game jams, and I had done the game jam version of Pony Island like right before I started that job, and I had already accepted the offer, but I started to detect this interest in Pony Island that I had never publicly gotten for any other game. And it wasn't huge or anything. It was just like people are responding to this in a way that nothing I've done before has had them respond like that. It's a bad sentence. But like I had a Giant Bomb article mention it. I had some streamers play it. I was like, whoa. Again, that was another like moment where like,
what game was this by the way, Daniel?
It's Pony Island. This was the first. Yeah. But it was a game jam entry initially. And then, so that was in the back of my mind. And then I was working at Skybox, and one weekend I went away with my friends, and for some reason, when I was on my way back, I was thinking, it would be cool to try that Steam Greenlight thing that I'm hearing about, where you put your game, and if enough people like it, you get on Steam. And that would be a huge step if my game was even on Steam, because at the time you couldn't just pay a fee to do that. And I was like, what would be a good candidate for that? Well, of course, Pony Island. And so I made a little trailer and I put it on Steam Greenlight. It sat there doing nothing. But then I thought, well, I have something here that some people are interested in. Right. Why don't I just reach out to publishers? And I applied my approach that I did to job interviews, which is that I compiled a massive list of emails, and with a Python script, I inserted hello name and blasted out as many emails as I could in a way that seemed like they were personalized. So I did that to as many publishers as I possibly could. Sure. And then I got some interest. A publisher was willing to put some money. I think it was like, actually, they weren't even putting any money up. I don't think. They were just going to get it on Steam. And that was enough for me to sign with them. I think I'm too in the weeds here, but I'll speed it up.
No. I was just going to say, I was just going to say, I'm very interested in what you just said.
Sure.
So you worked with a publisher, but on the Steam page, you didn't.
Well, yes. So I'll get to that part of the tale.
Yeah. And how, by the way, when you worked with a publisher, because people listening right now, they want to know, Was it worth it? Did they give you some money? Did it help you go full time? Like, what was that like?
I'm gonna not name the publisher here,
Okay.
because I'm gonna say some bad things about them.
That's fine. I've had bad experiences with publishers too. Yeah.
Part of me wants to put them on blast, but I'm not going to.
I know. I felt that way too.
Conversation. So they were fine at first. It was great. And actually, the person, my contact at the publisher, was an extremely great guy, and like I have nothing but good things to say about him. My game was greenlit by Steam Greenlight because it sat on there, and then all of a sudden I realized, oh, I'm on Steam now. All they were offering was putting me on Steam, but now they're taking a percentage of my money, and I'm getting nothing out of it.
Dude,
like they didn't even have.
How old were you, by the way?
Like 22.
Dude, if I was a publisher and I was working with a 22, you're basically
they didn't know
a kid.
that though. Yeah.
You're basically a kid. If I was working with a kid like that, I'd be like, guys, I'm not gonna screw you over.
Yeah, well, luckily that's what my guy did, and it was only the scumbaggery actually only came later. So if nothing had happened, I would have had only good things to say about this publisher, because my friend there, he's like, I understand. I'm going to push hard to get you out of this contract because I don't think it's fair anymore. And so he did that, and
So they didn't pay you anything?
No money was changed hands. Here's my thought. I was just like, I need to be on Steam. That is my goal here. At the time, that felt, if you're on Steam, you could make some money, and I still felt like it was this step-by-step process to becoming an indie. I was like, okay, at the Kickstarter now, the next step, have any game just on Steam. That was my goal.
What year was this?
2015 was when I was doing that.
I think we can, as an audience, hearing your story, we can be more forgiving. If it was like 2020, it'd be like, Daniel, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I wasn't like it's not like I was a savvy business person anyway, but that was my goal.
But 2015 was different, you know? I think Greenlight was new-ish, right?
Well, it was actually getting closer to the end, because that's when they were opening the floodgates of, like, they lowered their criteria, and that's how Pony Island got greenlit, because they just kept lowering it, and then there'd be these big batches of games that had just been sitting there. Yeah. And eventually, I also put Catch Monsters on greenlight, and eventually even that was greenlit. So that says something. Eventually everything was, I think.
It looks great. Catch Monsters, honestly,
but
dude,
no one had
It looks a lot better than most of the games that are living on Steam right now. So
sure, but But anyway, I'll briefly mention the scumbaggery, which is that much later they continued to pose after the game had become successful. In a few instances, they posed as my publisher, even though our contract had been null and void. And then they went bankrupt. And then a sister company of theirs with a lot of the same people who had just jumped ship continued to pose as my publisher in certain deals. There's one with EA where they tried to take a cut of my deal with EA Origin, the subscription service, by posing as my publisher.
No.
And we had no agreement. And
did the publisher? Did it start with a Z?
No.
Okay. I had a publisher. The first deal I signed was the same sort of thing. I was 18 or 19 years old. Signed a deal. Now they paid me, so that was nice. So I got to.
You already got a leg up on me.
I have a leg up on you, yeah. But they were like, we'll make the game for you. We'll just make, because it was a Flash game. So they were like, we're gonna make Coma. It was called Coma. They were like, we're gonna make Coma into an iPad game. It's this new thing called an iPad. And that was the thing back then.
Exciting.
Everyone wanted to get it on the iPad for some reason. And so what ended up happening is they didn't make the game for me. Like, that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
We're going to make an adventure game, and we're barely going to pay you. And we'll do all the work. So they ended up not doing it at all. And they went bankrupt, and I had to buy the game back. Which ended up turning into Neversong. So,
did they give you a good deal? Like, do you feel like it was worth buying it back, sort of?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So I guess I can disclose this. It was a $20,000 deal to buy the entire IP, which I did. Which you're 18, you're gonna do that.
Yeah.
Someone waves $20,000 in front of your face. You're 18 years old. You want to impress your girlfriend, so you sign the deal.
Yeah.
You take the $20,000, but you sell the whole IP.
Right.
And so I sold the whole IP, but I ended up buying it back for about like a tenth of what
Okay,
they
yeah.
paid me for. So it was a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah, it's just free
for a
money,
teenager.
basically.
Yeah, free money.
Yeah.
So anyway, dude, that sucks, man. I'm sorry
Yeah.
that your first publisher deal that you signed
Yeah, but
went
really,
that way.
like, I wasn't like mad about it because, yeah, like I said, the scumbaggery came after the game had already been a success and changed my life. So it's not like I was like really, I was thinking about these nightmare scenarios though of like what, like again, goes back to like all these lucky strokes I had where like, what if they had not let me leave and I had published Pony Island and they had kept all the money and then went bankrupt. And I actually got a letter in the mail from a French, they were, and now I'm leaking too much, but whatever. They're a French company. I got a French court notice in the mail and it was all in French. And like at the time, I guess now you could just like put your phone in front of it and like translate it. But at the time I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able, like, I didn't need to, but there's no way I would have been able to deal with like a French court from Canada. Like, imagine that. I guess I'd have to hire a French lawyer or something, but like if they were holding my money, how would I do that? So I just was thinking like it could have been really bad if my saintly friend hadn't got me out of that agreement. But anyway, fast forward, I due to the positive sort of reinforcement I was getting, just the fact that a publisher was even interested was a lot of wind under my sails. And so this felt like my big shot. So I spent a lot of time outside of work working on it. Eventually it got to a point where I could show it to people and people like my friends and family, and they were excited about it. And at that point I asked my employer if I could work on it if I could work at my job part-time and work on my indie game, the other half, of course, at a reduced salary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah. But, and I kind of pitched it as like, if you say no, I probably will just leave. But I really wanted to keep working at the job to sort of hedge my bets financially. And they allowed me to do that. Another bit of luck. And then I continued now with like full steam ahead, working like able to work. Like, I think I eventually got down to only 2 days a week at my job. They let me do that. And then I was working 3 days and some of the weekend, or at least a good part of the weekend, probably on Pony Island.
Did you have social obligations? So like a wife, kids?
Less so. I had my partner, who is now my wife, was long distance. And so I had friends, but nothing yet, no kids yet. That's, I've said it before, but yeah, if I had like all these obligations, I doubt that would have worked, right?
Yeah. So were you Daniel, sorry to interrupt, were you living on like basically just like a really low frugal budget?
It was, I can't say I like had to scrap and save too much. Like I was renting a basement suite, like, but like I didn't like go hungry or anything.
Basement suite. It sounds very fancy.
Yeah, I was living in a basement in East Vancouver. In Vancouver, rent is pretty expensive. But,
I know, that's what I'm trying to figure out here is how did you do this? Because a lot of people listening right now, and I know you said on Discord that you misspoke during a podcast, but I agreed with what you said, which is money's important as an indie game developer. Would you agree with that? Having money,
it's a factor. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So the reason I say this is because I'm like, I try and tell people who listen to me on YouTube, like, try and get some funding or something while you're making your game because it helps.
Yeah.
Now, your situation though is interesting because it's like somehow you made 2 days of work pay for this game.
Well, I guess that was like I slowly reduced. So like if I'm really like crunching the numbers in hindsight, I definitely like I've never have been a big spender, so I was always saving. I mean, a game dev programming job, even as a junior, still pays like it still paid much more than my cost of living. So I was saving as I was working full time, and then as I reduced, I guess I was getting closer to the point where I was breaking even, and maybe on 2 days I probably wasn't. I was in the red probably, but I still had enough savings, and this is all a compressed time period. I think I can't remember the exact timeline, but it was a number of months that I was doing this, not years. So to me, it didn't seem risky at all. And again, like I at the time I was very optimistic about my job prospects. When I had first applied for my first job in the games industry, I picked from one of 3 offers. It was probably a good time. And so like that, it felt like, oh, if I get laid off, I can just get another job. Big whoop-de-doo. If indie game fails, I'll just get another job. So I think it was probably a good time in the games industry that I wasn't worried about that. I think I was a good candidate because I could always show the employers like, look, I'm look at all the stuff I'm doing and look at my experience. So I just wasn't worried about that. And that's just a lucky thing.
So many indie game developers or like aspiring indie game developers, they just feel like they have to go all in. You know, it's like I have to sign a publishing deal with a publisher, or I have to do a Kickstarter campaign and get a full salary so that I can quit, or I can't do it at all and I have to work a job I hate. And it sounds like you found this happy medium.
Yeah, I found a happy medium in a lucky way. I think I do agree that dichotomy is somewhat false, but I also think that, if you had all those obligations, like a family and everything, and you were already working full time, like I can't honestly tell you to oh, you should be working in your spare time somehow. Like that's atrocious.
There's no spare time, especially with kids.
Exactly.
It doesn't exist. Yeah.
So I don't know. That's a hard one. But I mean, I guess the part-time thing was a stroke of luck, and maybe that's one avenue. But
I don't know if it's luck. It just sounds like you were being smart.
A lot of employers would just say no, right? They don't want part-time employees.
I mean, it's not like they were paying you for the hours you weren't working.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, so I think you just. It sounds like, dude. I mean, I'm just listening to your career and I'm looking at your games. It just sounds like you have a really good head on your shoulders.
Maybe. Yeah. Thanks.
It's so interesting. You interest me so much because half of you is very practical and wise, and then the creativity that comes out of you is like serial killer stuff. I mean, it's just wild. Yeah. But we'll get into all that. So let's keep going though with your story. I want to hear how you went full time. Yeah,
well, I'm almost there because I all this, working on Pony Island part time and eventually like almost full time was to finish the game, and I finished it very quickly. I was like super motivated by finishing it quickly, and it was a short game, but it was like just over a year of development, and not all of that was even full time.
That's amazing, man.
I don't even know how that even happened. I just never second guessed anything. I still kind of work like that, but it was like next thing. If I was working on it like a little bit before work in the morning, it's like, let's just do one little task, like one little like bullet point on my massive list. If I can do that before work, then I've made a step forward. But anyway, got to release. I guess that I started to get really excited because I was starting to get YouTubers emailing me because I had it on Steam as upcoming and it looked interesting. So these like quite small YouTubers in terms of like their subscribers and whatnot were emailing me asking if they could play it. And I was just letting them play the whole game and upload videos of the whole thing even before the game came out. And which is a weird choice maybe, but I just thought like, what could it hurt? And I was starting to get more and more of those. And I think those videos attracted a YouTuber who you may have heard of called PewDiePie. And then
that's amazing.
And then
way to go, dude.
Yeah. And I was had a New Year's Eve party at the New Year's Eve at the end of 2015 at a friend's house, and I woke up in their basement with an email from PewDiePie saying like, "Can I play your game? It looks interesting."
Wow.
Sent him the thing, and then on release day, 4 days later, that had been planned, he released a entire playthrough, just straight him playing it. And it's hard. I did have like a decent amount of wish lists. I'm certain the video did a lot too, but it was basically a instant like success for me.
Oh, look at him go! Yay! Butterflies! Shoot, butterflies!
Why? This is so. Congratulations, by the way, on
Thanks.
That is such a huge monumental achievement. And I'm looking right now at all of the streamers who have played Pony Island, and this is going to lead me to a really important question that I think everyone listening wants to know. You've got Markiplier. He played Pony Island. 3.4 million views. John Wolf, 291,000 views. Let's see here. I want to see the most sort by view count.
I would have thought it would be the PewDiePie one, but I
thought so too. But it's Markiplier's. But this is 8 years ago, so it's a different time back then. GT Live, that's a big one. They've played some of my games as well. He's really, really nice.
Yeah. I think Jacksepticeye was in there somewhere, or maybe that was related.
Jesse Cox, John Wolf, we mentioned that. Game Grumps, they've played some of my games too. They've done really well. Anyway, the reason I'm looking at this is I'm trying to see, are you more successful than me? And the answer is yes. You've done amazing. This is so cool. Like, dude, it's such a streamable game. So that's what I wanted to ask you. Yeah. What I want to ask you is, what made this game streamable?
Well, yeah, and I should say that, and I know I'm being a broken record here, but this was another thing that I feel was just lucky. I wasn't like aiming at that when I made the game. I was just trying to make an interesting game. I was always thinking about the way I felt when X happened in BioShock or Y happened in Portal, like these moments where you're like, whoa, like everything's different. Yeah, I was to definitely a high degree, I'm still chasing those moments in my games. And so that's what I was aiming for. But I think as a result, it makes a game that's it's very good to react to it. It's so like there's lots of moments for the streamer to display their personality by going like, whoa, or like getting up off their seat and like walking around and stuff. And I think streamers look for those types of games. They don't want a game where they're going to be like sitting there emotionless clicking, right? And then of course the title was very clickbaity. Pony Island. Oh, but it's a horror game or something.
Especially in like 2017 or?
Yeah, 16? In 2016 it came out.
Yeah, that was like pre-mascot horror games. Which, you know, I feel like this is sort of leading up to that, which is like the twisted, cute animals.
Yeah,
like
I think I got in on that trend on the earlier side of things.
Yeah, you did. Wow.
And Undertale had come out in 2015, and I remember seeing it and I was like, oh no, like this game is doing a lot of the things that I want to do, but it's probably doing them better. And now it did so many things that I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to be the first to try that anymore because they just did that. And then I was almost a little bitter about it, but I think it created a context for it created a context for Pony Island. People were like, oh, it's like Undertale. It's meta. It's all these things. And I think actually Undertale kind of like planted the seeds to help me actually, maybe.
Sure. Yeah. The meta vibe. It's basically, your games do two things I think really, really well. They're meta, but they're also subverting expectations. So every like 30 minutes, it's like, wait, what? I'm out of the game.
Yeah.
Right. And did Pony Island do that? It just took you to a new genre.
I think so. Yeah.
Game. Yeah. And I think Undertale does that to some degree and shifts your expectations constantly, keeps you on your toes. It's so good hearing you say that. I wrote down aim for the woe. Yeah. Aim for the woe. And I think I had a call with my publisher this week, and they felt like the demo of my game Twisted Tower, it's streamable to a degree. I mean, we've had some pretty cool streamers play it, but chapter 2 through 5, it's just kind of like Serious Sam, just shoot, running gun. And so I had a call with my publisher, and we basically landed on exactly what you just said, the problem is this is an expensive approach. It takes time.
Yeah, seriously.
Where you got to go in and create these set pieces and these moments that cause the streamer to get out of their chair.
Yeah,
my question is do you feel like that's necessary for a game?
I don't think I would. I think it might be a mistake if it was like, it's for the streamer first. I think you'd want to be like, this is for the player. I mean, I'm sure you're not forgetting that either, but it's like, this is for the player, but a streamer might also like it because like ultimately the streamer will direct someone to the game and they'll play it. And if they have a bad experience, then it kind of ends there. Like, I think so they won't leave a good review. They won't tell their friends about it.
What's the difference between aiming for a woe from a streamer versus a gamer?
Maybe it's not as different as I'm saying, you know? Maybe you're right. I just think maybe some of those mascot horror games, it almost seems like and it's not fair to all of them. I'm not even familiar with all of them, but sometimes it feels like they're almost just bait for streamers first and foremost.
And then when you play them, it's just like,
there might be kind of vapid or I don't know, and I haven't played that many of them. And of course, Five Nights at Freddy's, I think, was pretty innovative for even kicking all that off. So I'm not targeting them with this at all.
Sure. So that's really cool, man. You know, aiming for the woe, I think that's a really cool sort of thought process there. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have to aim for it from the streamer, but you've done that so well, but it sounds like with Pony Island, it sounds like you didn't even aim for that. You just sort of intuitively knew that's what you wanted.
Yeah.
Right?
I think in a way, I had a successful prototype. I had the Game Jam version, and many people don't publicly release their prototypes, but I did as a Game Jam version, and it was a feedback loop that I started getting there, and I think that was a big key to it, where I'd put out a lot of things at that point, and then I detected that this one was being responded to, and many elements of the original Game Jam are the core identity of the final game. So part of it was the success of the Game Jam version.
Yeah. So back to the story. How did launch go?
Well, yeah, that was incredible. It was like an emotional roller coaster. I had achieved my goal of being full indie way faster than I had ever expected. Because when I started this game, my goal is just get it on Steam. Just it has to be on Steam. That's the next step. And so it had not just been on Steam, it had sold a lot to the point where I was now able to fund my next game and not worry about, paying rent at all. Sure. It continued to get like rave reviews and YouTubers playing it. Like every week there was some like, oh, it's Markiplier this week. Oh, it's this person said they liked it. And it was crazy. It was it felt a little undeserved at times. I felt almost a weird sense of guilt where I was like, I kind of just rammed this thing out. Like, are you sure like you want to say that I'm a great game developer? Like,
would you say that's imposter syndrome? Did you feel like a fraud, or was it just like,
I don't know.
Lucky, or
I wasn't thinking that I was bad at what I did. It just felt like the result was not compensatory to the what I put out, sort of. Like I would be happy if it did well. It just seemed like the people who were going on and on about it is like, if that, like the excess was what felt
I wonder
wrong.
if the guy who invented a peanut butter and jelly sandwich felt the same way.
Yeah.
It's like, I just put peanut butter and jelly on some bread, but everyone loves it,
Yeah.
And but the thing is it's ingenious, right?
Yeah.
That sandwich is ingenious. Your style, your aesthetic, and like the genre of your games, and I don't even know if you have a genre. It's very unique, and but it's simple. And Inscription is very simple, but also it's not. There's just something really, really unique about that. And so, in a way, I don't know if you were born with that skill, but it sounds like you were just sort of blessed to have this ability to create something very unique but very simple.
Yeah, I think I had developed like the core technical skills and like just craftsmanship from all of my experiments, and then when I got the direction of like, this is what you should direct them at, that was when I was able to succeed on that one. I just wanted to mention one thing that I forgot to say. I feel like it's an important point. I kind of left my friend in the lurch, where there was one point, I'll say it quick just so if he's listening, I gotta give him his proper due. There was one point where I was making, for that French publisher, I was making a demo. They wanted to see a 30-minute version of the game, and I thought it was really important that I deliver this. And so my friend helped me like clarify my thoughts. He actually kind of designed out a little roadmap of like how I could proceed making a 30-minute demo. And he's credited as a designer on the game because he helped me so much to make that first 30 minutes. And then after that, I kind of took it from there. But
cool.
Anyway, just a shout out.
What was his name?
Simon Jenkins.
Okay,
he's a very, he still is like sort of my design guru that I go to every once in a while. And I say, he works at EA now. And I say like, oh, I've got this design problem, and he'll go way too hard. He'll like send me like PowerPoint presentations on like, oh, this is what I think. Here's all these approaches you could do.
Right.
So
Pony Island, what was that first paycheck like? Not the number. I'm not asking for the number.
Yeah.
Like, what was it like? Was it like way bigger than you expected?
Oh yeah.
And you're like, holy crap! And did you feel like scared? Like, can I keep doing this? Is my next game gonna do well?
I think the panic set in when I was like, the dust had settled, and a few months after Pony Island, I was like, all right, time to start the next project. But what is that? And
Pony
that
Island
was
2.
when, well, I actually had my boss at work tell me to do that, but I just didn't want to do that. I thought I've exhausted this. I had felt like I exhausted that idea, and I didn't want to be someone who is seen as like getting one success and just milking it to death. which is there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not what I.
Well,
I
you're
had
doing
too much
that right
pride,
now, aren't you?
Yeah, I guess so.
With Pony Island 2.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the end, I took his advice, but
that's right. Yeah.
And so I just thought, like, I got to make something else, but it has to be all these things that people just said they like. I don't think when I was making Pony Island, I ever said the word meta. Maybe when Undertale came out, I heard that term, but like I had never aimed at that or all these, or subversive, or all these things that people said about Pony Island.
Yeah.
But when it came out, everyone said those words a lot, and I thought my next game has to be all that. And I had an idea in mind. And I scrapped it because it was shaping up to not be those things. And then in a panic, sort of, I started the Hex, and I was sort of directionless. And for a while, I was trying to like merge this one idea I had of like this idea for a game, but trying to like shoehorn in the meta, and it has to be all these things. And then I think that game was a struggle to make because I just felt like it wasn't going to live up to Pony Island. In the end, in hindsight, I think I like it more than Pony Island, and I'm more proud of it, but it certainly, as far as like reviews and sales, it was not nearly as successful. But
why?
Well, I think a big part of it was it doesn't present itself well in a trailer. I will say that I did all the art in that game. Looking back on it, there's some parts I like, but I don't think it's visually stunning, let's say.
I'm
many people told me that as well.
It's so interesting because I agree with you. I'm looking at Pony Island versus the Hex.
Yeah.
Pony Island has an Undertale grunginess to it.
Yeah.
It looks worse than the Hex, but better. Like it
has a simpler style that just makes it easier to...
But it's more trendy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whereas the Hex feels less so. And I don't know why.
The Hex, I was straining against the limits of my art skills, and Pony Island, I was able to deploy them in a way that it was less obvious, that it was like, it was easy to draw a crappy sprite for Pony Island and make it look like it belonged there. But in the Hex, it was like sort of very noticeable.
Let's think about this. Okay, so which one was funnier?
I gotta say the Hex. Yeah.
Really?
There's some good...
What about on the surface? So, like, what about as it's presented?
No,
which one's funnier?
It's Pony Island. Yeah, clearly, because it has the gag with the name. But yeah, yeah.
And also at the end of Pony Island's description on Steam, it says, "It is not a game about ponies."
Yes.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Whereas the Hex, it's the Hex, and so it automatically feels like maybe it's a horror game.
Right.
Maybe it's taking itself seriously, which isn't a problem.
Yeah.
In a creaky old tavern, and this is the description on Steam. In a creaky old tavern in a forgotten corner of the video game universe, a storm is raging. An anonymous caller suggests that there is a murder plot. 6 video game protagonists are the only plausible suspect. So it's clever, but I don't know if it's funny, right?
No, you're right.
That's just something to think about. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Clearly, this game is done way better than my.
Well,
it's done great. 4,000 reviews.
Sure, you should have seen it before Inscription, though. I mean, it was fine,
really?
But it got secondhand attention because of Inscription's success.
I see.
I've said this before, but its best day of sales in its lifetime was Inscription's launch, not its own launch.
Wow.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, "Ooh, I want to get a game like Inscription."
Partly because there's a bundle. There's a bundle, I should say. It's a little bit artificial, but yes.
This is interesting. You are so close, dude. You are so. I'm looking at. I'm fascinated.
Oh, I know. 94. Yeah, trust me.
You're so freaking
trust
close.
Me. And it was. What's even worse? It was, and it dipped at one.
Oh man, you just couldn't get it.
Yeah.
Whereas Pony Island, dude, congratulations, 13,000, almost 14,000, overwhelmingly positive reviews. That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is now obviously Inscription probably blows it out of the water, but let's look at Inscription. 120,000. What is wrong with you? How did you do that?
Well,
that's amazing.
Again, it's
so jealous.
Not necessarily like, like if a game snowballs, it snowballs, right? It's not like I
want to figure
it's not
that
like
out.
Inscription is 100 times better than the Hex, right?
Well, can we move on to Inscription in your story?
Sure. Yeah. So that's about where we were at. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to figure out, like, and I guess we answered the first question of this podcast, which is, what's your story of getting full time?
Yeah,
so
definitely. If we thoroughly answered that,
it was great.
Yeah.
So we thoroughly answered how you went full time. I want to move into. It's something like, how do you know how you followed your gut with it? Inscription? When I see Inscription, I see a game that's clearly crafted by a singular mind and is so brave in its artistic style and integrity. The music, the vibes, everything is so. I don't like the word brave, but it's brave. It's like,
thanks.
you just went for it, and you just went with your gut. At least that's how it feels.
Yeah.
And so my question is, how did you know when an idea was good with this game?
Well, I was kind of like, I think I have to give credit to the process of making the hex in this, where I was floundering for so long and so insecure about it. And then I was working on that game for like 3 years or maybe a little less.
Hex?
Yeah, the hex. And in the last like 8, maybe 6 to 8 to 10 months or so, I really was like, let's pull this together. Let's make this the best version of what it is, and let's put it out there. And I think I was heartened by my ability to do that. I rapidly took something that I was very ashamed of or just like not proud of, and I turned it into something that I thought was great, and I was proud of it. And so I felt that it kind of made me feel that I could do that again, where let's just start, and so much can change. Like I often just think about how the game is never done until you release it. You can, if there's something you don't like, you can always change it. There's like, just keep moving forward. If it's crap now, it doesn't have to be forever. And so you don't have to feel bad about this one part. Oh, I hate that one part. Just change it later. Like, and so I guess that I felt, sort of invincible after the hex, where I felt like even though it hadn't done that well, I just thought like the game, I had like nightmares about like it being so bad that people like mocked me, and it had like negative reviews, and everyone's like, oh my god, the Pony Island guy made this, that's embarrassing. And like it didn't do that. It had overwhelmingly positive reviews. It didn't have that many of them, but and so I just felt, let's do that again, and do certain things different. Like, let's get the art better. That was intentional.
Well, Daniel, just side note here. I'm in that situation right now.
Yeah.
I've been doing, my games. They don't do nearly as well as yours in numbers, but they're both very positive. Neversong and Pinstripe is very positive, and I feel good. I feel like, okay, I have credibility, so I'm going to make YouTube videos about
definitely
this. And so I make YouTube videos, and I teach, and I tell people how to make games and follow their passions. But here I am with Twisted Tower, which is my third game, and I'm not super proud of it, and I'm ready to wrap it up.
Okay.
And
I will ask one thing though. Do you find that you're not proud of it today, but can you think of a time that you were extremely proud of it, like a month ago or 2 months ago?
I was really proud of it a month ago when the demo launched.
Well, this
Isn't that weird?
Well, I think this is normal. I think there's a curve of your emotions about the game, and it's a roller coaster that you continue to go up and down on until it comes out. Yeah. And so I just it's normal today to feel that. I think it's good that it's not always, you don't always feel like that. Like that's just part of the creative thing. You can't look at the same thing every day and feel objective about it,
Well, what I think what caused this is caring what people think.
Right.
The demo page right now is at it's just confusing to me. So we're at 1,000. The demo is at 1,000 very positive reviews on Steam. But the last 28 reviews are mostly positive. And I'm like, what happened?
But nothing changed.
Nothing changed.
Well, then disregard. That's what I say. Well, there's no rational reason to be like, oh.
I think the reason it's at very mostly positive is because it's only 28 reviews. And
right.
So all it took
too small
was
of a sample size. Yeah.
Yeah. All it took was 6 people who got pushed this demo on Steam for some reason, and they don't
forget about it. Yeah. there is an effect, I think, of people are more forgiving when they detect that it's a smaller thing. Like
Yes.
people, if it's like Civilization 7, people are not holding back. Let's let it rip, baby. In
And
terms of the stuff they'll say. But if it's a small indie, they're like, oh, this is a human being, for God's sake.
Yeah. So I think the problem with this is that what happened, and then I want to get into Inscription. What happened with this was, first off, it's a demo. So people don't know how much it's going to cost when it's
yes, that's a
an
good
actual
point.
game.
Yeah.
So it's a demo. And so you've got people who know my games who played it, and they're like, well, we know Thomas is going to make a $20 game. So we know Thomas makes those kind of games. And so I think people and they like me. So they're like, well, I'm going to give Thomas a good score for his demo.
Yep.
Yay, Thomas.
Right.
And then after the marketing push is done, then 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 months later go by, and then people come in who don't know me, and they play the demo, and they're like, okay, so this is going to be a $50 game because it looks like a $50 game. And then they play the demo and they say, well, that doesn't feel like a $50 game. And so I'm worried that people are playing it thinking it's AA. It's not AA.
Right.
It's an indie game, and it's going to be $15 to $20.
Yeah.
And so I think once I release the game, I think the price point will anchor the expectations.
I agree.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, I definitely am, as any Steam, developer is aware that the price is a massive factor in what people say about the game, whether we liked it or not.
That's right.
I would rather them just say whether they liked it, and then as the consumer, I can say, okay, well, they think it's great, but it's $20. I'll make up my own mind. It's not like, it's bad because it was too expensive.
Was it back to Inscription? Was Inscription, and by the way, it's published by Devolver for people listening, which is a huge thing. Congratulations, that's massive.
Thanks. Yeah.
Was it Devolver's decision to do $20 and not $15?
There was a discussion. They were way too willing to defer to me, and I think that's a good thing. I remember this call, and they were like, I came in first, and I think one of them said like, oh, I think it should be $20 because it's an unknown quantity. Like people, it doesn't represent itself fully. So like people will be disappointed if they pay a lot and it's not what they expected. I think that was great rationale. And then I just came in, I was like, I thought maybe 25. And they're all like, oh yeah, 25. But then I was like, wait a second. No, I want to hear you're the experts here. And they are experts. And I in hindsight, I think they were right. So we ended up going with 20. But I think in general, and all of this is all for the positive for them. They definitely listen to their developers and they try to meddle as little as possible. And so they were willing to go with me, but I wanted their expertise. And I do always aim lower. I think like my tendency is to aim low because I'd rather have more people play it for less than less for more. And I want the better reviews that come with the lower price. So it's a tendency to go lower for me.
Well, we've got a game that is incredibly impulsive. I don't know the right phrase, but this game, it feels impulsive. It's wild. It's a wild game. Grounded in a very simple and singular mechanic. And this brings me, I'm sort of bringing it back to my original question is, how did you control that impulsivity or I don't know what the right word is. It's like, it's almost like feature creep where you're just like, let's throw in some video footage. Let's let's change the environment completely. Let's change all the cards to look like they're futuristic. Like that feels like feature creep or something. I don't know what the right word is. Did Devolver like that about your games? Did they? Yeah,
I should say that I came to them with a game that was almost done. It was late.
Oh, wow.
They didn't give any development funding. They only originally I just wanted someone to put my game on consoles and just get that going. And the discussions led to a whole thing. They put up a lot for like marketing and QA and localization, but nothing for like the game's development because I had Pony Island funding that still. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second because I was getting Unity going on the other screen there.
Oh, that's fine.
It just popped open and like totally flashbanged my brain.
Yeah. So for people listening, we're gonna open up Inscription in Unity.
I'm hoping it's looking all right. Okay. Yeah.
So I guess the question, I'm trying to frame this right. I guess do you believe in feature creep?
Right. And what did Devolver think about the feature creep?
Yeah,
And the answer was that they didn't get a say in it, really.
Because it was basically done.
Yeah. But sorry. I have an answer for you, which is that it's sort of my whole process, which is to do that. I did it with Inscription. I'm doing it again to a greater degree with Panda Circus, and this will be the test if I've gone too far with it. But like starting with very little as a seed and just throwing things at it and seeing how it grows is how I've described it. There's no master plan from the start, like almost whatsoever. And we start with some core thing, like the card game, the deck building roguelike. Yes, we're making that, and then there's going to be a twist. Don't know what it is yet. Keep working on stuff, and then ideas come as the bricks are laid, I guess.
Man,
you could go too far. It could.
Can you
there is
though?
feature.
Like, can you personally, Daniel Mullins, who you understand your games, and you've proven that being wild and stream of consciousness is the right approach for your games.
Yeah.
Right? So like, isn't that just the way to do it? How can you go too far with that?
Well, I made a decision in Inscription that saved me probably a year or more of development to not go too far, which was, and everyone reminded me of this after the game, that, it's cool that you get to see PO3, the robot character's 3D section, but I wanted to see the other two scribes so badly. And you see them a little bit in the finale, but there's no full-fledged section. Before they were even saying that, there was a part of me that wanted to have a branching path at the end of part 2 where you could, with the scribe you picked there, would dictate which 3D part, and each player would only see one of them. And so I would have developed 3 versions of part 3, and that it would have been a branching path. And I said no to that to myself because I felt that at that point the end was in sight. And if I did that, the end would be thrown way out of sight again. And I just wanted to finish the game.
You know, you've I mentioned this earlier in the podcast, but like you have this gift of knowing when to be wild and knowing when to be wise.
Yeah, maybe that's true.
You know when to scale back and cut back, like you just mentioned, but then you know when to go crazy. How did you figure that out?
I don't know. I do. Yeah, like I am, even when I'm doing like a weird creative idea, I am thinking about the time it'll take to do it. So a lot of good ideas can be done. I find like a lot of little ideas, like, a fun little card that does this are ones I can think of and have done in the span of like a day almost sometimes. And so usually the cost is lower. So I just get in these ideas. And I think that does go back to just having good fundamental skills. I think like all those experiments I did, my time in the games industry, my childhood of doing Flash and Photoshop, like I have the skills to make an idea happen pretty quickly in the game. So I don't have to be as prudent about time, but there's limits to that, of course, where like if I make a giant 3D section of the game, it's going to take a long time, no matter how much experience I have.
What about testing? So like, did you find yourself playing Inscription all the time while you were making it? Because
to a degree.
the reason I ask is because like I have to trust my instincts when I'm making my games, where I'm playing the game and I'm feeling where I need to insert something crazy.
Yeah, I think that's a good. Yeah, I think I can relate to that a lot. I think that's something. Yeah, I tend to play snippets a lot as I'm working on them. As far as like, let's sit down and do the whole thing myself. I don't do that too often, but I also watch people do that, which is probably even better. But I did find myself, and sometimes I even find myself getting carried away by just wanting to play the game. Even that's
such a good
thing.
Some
parts of your own game can be fun, even after a lot of hours. So like, there's definitely probably were times in Inscription where I'm like, let's see where this run goes, and then like, wait, no, I was trying to test this mechanic. What am I doing? Yeah. And so
it's what I'm trying to get at, and I apologize if I'm not being as clear with my question as I can be. I'm trying to figure out, how do you know when to bring in wild ideas. Like,
Yeah.
when to ground yourself and when to keep it simple. Because like I have conversations on this podcast with some game developers who are extremely principled about keeping the project on track.
Yeah.
And then I have other people like you or Zolivier, and they come in and they're like, let's just go for it. And it just feels right. And let's just bring in some crazy idea and just do it. You know, it's like, how do you know when that's the right move? You know?
I think there is like a big part of it is intuition. It's like, do you think it's a cool idea? Does it resonate with you? Like you're a creative person. Like obviously when you have an idea, it's like, oh, like that is good. It's, you can't really like mathematically prove it, but it excites you. And the prospect of making it real is exciting. And I think that is something you should listen to. I can understand the person who's like, we got to keep things on track. We can't follow every whim. And that might be the circumstances of their development. They might have all these team members and they can't just like, oh, we're doing a U-turn. The game is this now. Sorry, everybody. Like you have to, if you have a big team, you have to convince them of your creative decisions a lot of the time, I suspect. But I'm lucky enough to have the freedom. The people I work with sort of like, it's like, please make this music track or please make this art asset. I don't have to describe the greater scheme of the game to them so I can make decisions.
I don't ever want to be in that position where you have to justify your leadership.
Exactly.
Or like your decisions. Like, no, we're just going to do it. Just trust me.
Yeah. It can be hard though. It's like sometimes you feel like, oh, like, do I even believe this enough myself? Like I'm telling you to trust me, but like, oh boy.
Well, this makes me wonder, you know, when I think about the Hex and how you described the Hex, it sounds like the Hex was a game where you were timid and trying too hard at the same time. Yeah,
I think that was a lesson from there. I was doing things that I think can be good, which is like using like sort of external heuristics to like evaluate your game, or I think these things are good for coming up with ideas, but not necessarily for evaluating what you have. Like I was reading like books about how to write dialogue and game design books, and I would always try to like map them back onto my game. Like, oh, am I doing that? Am I doing this? And I think I was overthinking it maybe.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's what a Daniel Mullins game should be.
Yeah.
Right? They should be very bizarre, and in a way it's like, this is something actually that I found really good advice, and I was surprised to hear it. My publisher, the parent company is Saber, and my publisher's 3D Realms, the parent company is Saber, and they have some really smart guys who will play Twisted Tower and provide feedback and ideas. And one of the things they said is, Thomas, we know you, and we also know that the game is called Twisted Tower. Your loop is too consistent. They were like, you need to get out of the loop. You got to twist the loop. You got to get out of the game loop. Yeah. And I found that so interesting. And in a way, the old version of myself, when I'm trying to be a good businessman and a practical game developer, I would say, no, we don't. That's feature creep. Yeah. But I think I'm starting to think that I don't believe in feature creep, at least in the way that I used to think about it.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And
it's
often,
like, it's advice that might be dangerous to give someone. I just wanted to say though, because I haven't said it yet, that Twisted Towers looks great. I've been talking about it, but I've just been like silently nodding. But I saw you play your own demo, and
cool.
And it's impressive that you're not calling it AA, you know, because you've achieved a look that is very much that, or triple even. Like it looks very good.
Well, I appreciate that, and I can't claim to. Number one, I can't claim to have done the artwork. That his name is Felipe Caravelli, and he was full time with me for 2.5 to 3 years.
Not just the art, but the way it moves and the way it looks and sounds and everything. Yeah.
The second thing I'll say about what you said is that it's I think you said it's bold that I'm saying it's not AA. No, that's me being a coward. I'm saying I'm going, it is not AA. Please do not put those expectations on the game because, and that's why I'm anchoring the price as much as I can, because I'm just terrified that people are going to play it and be like, oh, the story's not as rich as BioShock. And well, of course it's not. You know, it's like 1% of the budget. But I appreciate you saying that, and I'm tempted to go and reduce the fidelity of the game.
Interesting.
And make it look like something like Inscription, where
right.
What I mean by that, and I hope you understand what I'm saying. I'm not insulting you. I'm actually I'm saying yours looks more stylized and trendy.
Yeah.
And with the pixelation and the lower fidelity, it looks amazing. I love the way Inscription looks. And I'm tempted to do that with Twisted Tower. Number one,
it says indie, right? It's sort of
that's right.
Yeah,
it's hey, this is not BioShock. We're not trying to make BioShock.
Yeah. I think Mortal Coil made fun of that. That Souls-like game. They have a graphics option called Indie Mode, and it applies a pixelation filter.
Wait, what's it called? Mortal? I've never even heard.
I think it was called Mortal Coil. I just want to double check that. But
I googled it.
It was pretty good actually. It's a Souls-like. It's it's a little like Dark Souls derivative, but it's like a good version of that.
Well, let's go ahead, Daniel, and open up.
Wait, this isn't right. This is something else. Hold on. What am I thinking of? I don't want to
I looked it up and I got
it's like this
album.
That ain't it.
It's a music. It's a band.
Mortal Shell. That's it. Yeah.
Okay, so Mortal Shell, you can do indie mode. Well, look, indie mode is. I've actually thought about doing that for Twisted Tower.
Yeah.
Because I like crunchy looking games.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Zolivier's. I don't know if you played Zolivier's click game. I can't remember what it's called.
Click holding. Yeah.
Click holding.
Yeah.
It actually looks very similar to Inscription. In the a heavy reliance on post processing and bloom.
Yeah.
Which is totally fine. It's not a slight. I'm saying that that's a brilliant move. And also that low fidelity pixelated look, heavy reliance on color theory. By the way, as you open up Inscription, if you don't mind, feel free to open it up.
Sure, yeah, I actually have it open.
How involved was Devolver in the style of the game? Because I look at Devolver games, they always look very similar.
Yeah,
they're heavily reliant on simplistic color theory, especially complementary colors. So, for example, Cult of the Lamb. Cult of the Lamb, I wouldn't say is complementary color theory. It's more like monochrome, with low saturation backgrounds with pops of red. It seems like you've done that with Inscription. Did they go in and help you with that, or was that because it?
No, they didn't. Nothing to do with that. Because like I said, they came in late in the game. I had already done all that, and I had a friend who did a color palette for the game. That was pretty big. I had some really cool shader effects, but yeah, I think you're right that it has in a way that Devolver aesthetic, which is probably why they were even more interested. Yeah. But they didn't, contribute. Yeah.
Then the next question is, it looks way better than the Hex. Way better.
Yeah.
What happened?
How
did you do that?
Well, a few things. I think I was like, what is worst? What is the worst thing about the Hex? And I know some fans will be like, oh, it looks great. Don't worry about it. Yeah. But I've gotten better as an artist. I'm proud to say I did all the 2D art in Inscription, like the card portraits, the pixel art. And so you can see that my skills actually improved over time.
They sure did.
And I like
looks
to think
incredible.
They still are, hopefully. And so I also aimed at it. And then let's be realistic about the real reason why it looks great, which is the models, the 3D models in the game by artists. Most of the iconic ones are by the artist David Hageman, who I started working with Inscription, and I'm working with him again for Panda Circus. I think it was a combination. His style lent itself really well to the post-processing effects I was using. He sculpts these beautiful, very highly textured, and there's wrinkles and divots and everything. Right. It's like a SpongeBob close-up every model, and that lends itself to the post-processing effect, which really picks up the shadows and makes the shadows look bolder and the highlights look brighter. And so I think it was this great synergy of his incredible artistry and style with the effects that I was putting on top of it. And let's be real, his art looks amazing without the effects. Arguably better, different, but
well, so. I think about it almost like an interior designer. So my wife will, and then we'll take a look at Inscription in Unity. But my wife will watch those house design shows or whatever, what's that? It's Chip and Joanna Gaines, and they're flipping houses and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is the person who makes the table is a genius, like a custom table, for example, for the house. Of course, they're a genius. Of course, they're brilliant. But the real brilliance is the person who curates it all and puts it into this beautiful house.
Yeah.
And so when I think about Inscription, I think about you as being like an interior decorator almost, where you just have taste and you know how to find the right artists and the right people to put it together into this one complete package. Because Inscription, it looks like it. I thought you made all that. What I mean is, like, I thought you designed all of it in Blender.
No, God, no.
And but that's not a slight. It's actually it's a compliment, saying you're a good leader and a good art director, and you're somebody who knows how to curate.
Sure, yeah, I'll take credit for being the interior designer, but I really, like, earnestly, not trying to be modest, I still put I put the table craftsman above the interior designer in terms of, like, just the skills. Like, I don't know. Like, yes, I totally agree with what you're saying. It does take both.
They're totally,
it does take both.
Right,
Yeah.
but they're totally different lanes.
But, like,
It's
what does the interior designer's house look like if it's all made by shoddy, like crap? Like, it's crap, right? Like,
I know, but they're different skill sets.
Yeah.
They're different lanes entirely.
Yeah. But
Let's
I
go
do
ahead and
take. Oh yeah, sorry.
No. Go ahead. What
I
were
was
you gonna say?
just a thought where, yes, I do take those assets and I do as much as I can with them. But again,
Yeah, and I felt that. I don't know if you feel guilty, but I felt guilt with Twisted Tower because, and that's why I tried to credit Felipe so much. You're doing the same thing where you're like, you're naming everybody you've worked with.
You got it, yeah.
Whereas, like, with Felipe, it's like that guy worked his butt off on Twisted Tower. Like, he worked so hard, and he even, I would say, please, Felipe, use assets when you can.
Yeah, I've been doing that
too.
And
he would go and say, okay. And then the next day, he'd be like, so I made this from scratch. Don't get mad.
Yeah.
And so everything most of that stuff in that game is made from scratch. And if you see an asset, it's because I got in there and brought assets in there behind his back.
That's a great process.
Yeah. So he was highly consistent in creating custom assets, but he and I have talked about this. There is something to be said about the person at the top, the leader, who's like, yeah, but this is the color palette, and this is our post processing, and this is our lighting, and how it all comes together.
You do need both. Like, I've seen games that have incredible artistry on the per asset basis, but those assets are not done justice by the way they're sort of put together. So you do need both.
That's right. I mean, it's as simple as looking at games that have this crazy fidelity, but they look like crap, and it's like, why?
Yeah.
And it's probably just color theory, it's post-processing, it's lighting. Lighting is a huge thing. But let's take a look at Inscription. So if you want to click present down there.
Okay,
you can share your screen with me. And I'm curious how the scenes are set up, man.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, hold on. Present.
And I didn't ask you to share Pony Island 2 because you're still making it. It's not that I'm not interested.
I would maybe, totally. Yeah, I think I'm with you because I would inadvertently reveal things that I'm. Is it showing now?
Let me look here. Yes, I can add it to the stage here. There we go.
I don't know what state, so to give some background, I haven't been in the repo in a decent amount of time. I was in the wrong branch, so I switched branches. And I just downloaded the right version of Unity for that branch, and so I wasn't able to transcode all the videos in time.
Wait. Hold on, bring the console back up.
I got it. It's gone. I cleared it, but I'll tell you what it was.
Anymore.
It was saying that I had failed to transcode the videos, because you have to change their format if you.
Well, it's an important question. Did you ship a game that had a bunch of warnings and errors in it?
Well, errors, no, because they can, like, crash the game.
Yeah.
Warnings, yes, to a degree. I don't. Yeah, I think I've gotten worse on like attending to warnings over the years.
I disable scene.
Yeah.
So
every once in a while I take a little browse through just to make sure there's nothing that's too concerning.
Yeah.
What are some interesting things here?
Show me how the scene works. Show me how.
So this scene, I don't even know what'll happen.
Can you make it bigger for us?
Sure.
The scene
this
view?
is normally the Unity layout that I prefer.
Bro,
which
this is the layout I use, especially the hierarchy in the project panel.
Yeah. So,
but I put the game on. I split the game in half horizontally. So
right. Yeah. Anyway. I had these scenes to test. So if you're familiar with Inscription, you know that when you go to certain nodes on the map, an event will happen. It's like pick a card, it's the simplest one, or like change a card, add a sigil, whatever. And so I actually had test scenes for each of those that used common prefabs. So that it was like simulating the game, but I could like run that particular event very quickly. So this is one of those, and this is the one where you turn one of your card. Oh, I have compiler errors. This might not go very far. But yeah, apparently I have compiler errors that I guess
I'd love to see what we're looking at
what we're looking at here is the scene that I was using to test the part where you turn one of your cards into a transformer, which was a thing you do in part 3 where you turn a card such that it transforms like a beastie or a transformer from the 80s into a beast on the other side, and it'll flip around. And so I wish I could play it, but I don't know if I'm going to like figure out these compiler errors on the spot. This like weird cage comes down with all these like eyes looking out, and you pick a card from your deck, and it gets inserted into this disk drive thing, and then you with PO3's face. Oh my god. With PO3's face, it's an interface that you use to like pick which beast you want to turn into.
Right.
As you can see, I use heavy use of like nested prefabs in Unity. I think nested prefabs and prefab variants were a game-changing Unity feature.
Right. I use them all the time now.
Yeah,
it's like absolutely necessary.
And when I look at other game engines, I'm like, you don't have that? I don't know if I
Have you tried, Daniel, Unreal?
Only just to like peep around in it. I can't earnestly say I've tried to make something in it. Yeah.
If you come from the Flash world, in my opinion, Unreal is like learning Chinese.
Right. Yeah.
It is so different than Flash.
Yeah.
The paradigm shift is bizarre. So I haven't touched it. Godot is very similar to
yes. That's one where I can see myself being able to transition. I think that would be a bigger step.
Is there any scene, Daniel, that we can hit play so that people can see?
Well, with compiler errors, probably not. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I didn't prepare for this demo.
No, I know. I brought this on you randomly today. So.
And the switching branches probably did something to.
I find it hilarious that. I mean, this is true for me. If I were to pull down Pinstripe or Neversong right now, it wouldn't play. I wouldn't know what to do with it.
Yeah. I definitely could, but I don't think this is a show where we want to watch me like figure out what's going on. I can just peep some of the scenes.
That's great.
There's our boy, cursed as hell with the lighting.
Dude. So your models are high fidelity.
Yeah, super high. This is David Hageman, at his peak. Oh, not that he's peak.
See what you're saying about the creases.
Yeah.
The normal maps are ridiculous.
When I first got this, I was like, did I make him waste his time on something so detailed? But I think it does translate even with because it's the pixel canvas that it's sort of overlaying or like reducing it to is still pretty high. It's like half of 1080p. Is a little unusual in that way, where it's like it's pixel art or pixelified, but very small pixels. You'd notice it, but it leaves a lot of detail.
So how did you achieve the pixelated texturing? Is that just compressing it down in Unity?
Well, yeah, so the texture on this guy is not really anything but maybe compressed just for the sake of memory or like disk size.
Oh, wow.
But the pixelation I'm talking about is like the post-processing over the whole screen. It's uniform. Yeah. So on a per texture basis, we have pretty high res textures.
Can you turn on the post-processing in the scene so we can see it?
Unfortunately, like I can turn the lighting here, but like, I don't think without hitting play, it's not going to do.
No, click next to the arrow, the drop down arrow. Yep, that one right next to it.
We have some okay.
But you have to turn it on. So click the button right next to the drop down arrow.
Right, but it's still some of these effects they're only at runtime.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I know a lot of the stuff like recently on the Asset Store they tried to do it both. But I don't know, some of them were custom and they it's a runtime thing.
Daniel, can you give us some tips on how you handle lighting? What you've clearly got a cinematic understanding of lighting. Can you break it down for us?
I was using as a guide how the assets looked, and how their shadows were cast and how the assets looked. Like I'm trying to like make them sing like that interior designer as much as possible. So a lot of these lights were finely tuned. Like here's an example. I wanted Leshy to be, and this isn't a good example because you don't see the post-processing, but I wanted his eyes to be of course visible. So they're unlit. So they're regardless of the light, they're visible. But I wanted bits of his face to be shown. I didn't want it to be just eyes. I wanted to imply a bit of a shape. And so much was done, or not so much, but it was tweaked to be that you could make out little bits of him to imply a shape, but not to really get a sense of like what he is. Like you might see these little creases on his forehead. It's like, oh, humanoid for sure. But then why is there like a bit of light being picked up like way out here? I can't even tell that it's like a big twig that it is, but it's kind of spooky. And so the same would go for these other like beautiful pieces where it's like, I want to see the sort of the shadows in them. I want to make sure they're casting a nice shadow and that they're just like being used to their full potential was a big part of it. Visibility on the things that are important. Total darkness in places that weren't important was something I was shooting for.
Absolutely.
I wanted this like sort of claustrophobic shadows like sort of bounding the room.
You didn't have to deal with optimization very much with this game, did you?
On the Switch port, we did.
Did you really? The shadows, you just removed shadows, basically.
It's been a while. We had to reduce lights for sure.
Yeah.
But
did you do any baking?
That's something that I think it's more just my inexperience with it that I've attempted it a few times. I can never get Unity to quite get it how as good as I want it. And the one thing it does lose is like one of my like staple effects that I use everywhere is like a subtle flickering of the intensity and range of a light source. And so at least if I'm doing dynamic, I'm paying a cost for it, but I'm getting the advantage of that flicker 1000%. That you couldn't do if it was baked.
Well, what I found out about baked lighting, and please forgive me if you know all this, and
I don't do it very much, so I probably don't.
Baking lights kills the specular and the metallic and the normal maps.
Okay.
They're gone.
Okay.
So you can't bake a surface that's metallic, specular, and normal. So all your normal maps, those beautiful normal maps, everything that makes this look incredible is gone.
Right.
You bake it. And so what you have to do, or what me and my team had to do with Twisted Tower, and lighting is so baked lighting is so idiosyncratic that people in the comments are going to have plenty to say about what's the right way to do it. But what me and my team had to do is we had to figure out a way to bring in real-time lights that are really important, but everything else is baked.
Yeah, I think that's the sweet spot. And then you get the best of both worlds. And it's just, I think I've never been forced to do it, but I have an environment artist right now on my current game who has gotten some good results in certain scenes. So maybe the next one we'll do it a bit more. Yeah. It was one of those things where it didn't have to.
Well, the reason I asked about optimization is it's really nice to have a static scene that there's very little to render here.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I can imagine you didn't even have to do any occlusion culling or anything like that.
Not in this scene. In the factory later on. There's like a lot of stuff behind the character. And so I did do some of that. Like there's all this crap back here.
Let's take a look.
This is like the part 3 scene, and this is like the factory that you're in, and the back part of the factory is kind of like if it weren't for the wall viewable from where the player's sitting, and therefore it wasn't like called by default. So that was one little optimization.
Can we see how it looks without lighting, so people can feel good about themselves?
Yeah, it looks terrible without lighting.
Yeah. lighting. I would say lighting and music are like 70% of a game.
Oh yeah.
At least it's aesthetic,
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
fun
this
to
is
see
cool,
all
dude.
the pieces that are like, many of these things aren't simultaneously active, but I usually have them active by default in the scene and then turned off when they're not in play. So there's all this like weird random stuff hanging around.
Have you ever seen a creepy Disney ride, like for example Mickey's Haunted Mansion?
Right.
I don't know if you've ever been on these rides, but
I probably I don't know. Not too familiar.
if the lights are on, it's like, oh.
Yeah,
this is so lame, but
it's still the workings of it.
That's right. And so that's kind of what this reminds me of, is like that face that was embedded in the wall just now.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's all it is. It's just a model put in the wall.
The light right in its face.
Yeah, but what's it look like with the lights turned on?
Ooh.
I wonder what's behind him.
And if you could only see the post processing.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, post processing does so much.
Yeah.
This is so cool, Daniel.
Yeah.
Have you ever shown this before?
No. It's actually quite fun to do that. Yeah. It's a cool privilege to show it off.
Yeah. And this, what I'm seeing here is the value in having a strong understanding of color, of lighting, of layout, of cameras and cinematography. Because truth is as brilliant as all the artists are who created these models, when you turn the lights off, it just looks like a standard. It looks kind of standard, other than that cool character or the faces, like the humanoid stuff. Yeah, it looks really, really detailed and interesting. But like a lot of this stuff is pretty standard, right?
Yeah. Like it needs both. It would look even worse if they were bad models.
Yes, but they're good models. But it's not like when I see them without the lighting and the post processing, I see like, oh, they're cool models, but it's not like what I thought they were.
Totally. And the nice thing was, like, as time went on, I was able to show like the artist, like, this is how it looks in the game, and I think people were responding to like, oh, like I know how to maximize, how this will look for you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I think this is a long podcast.
Time has flown by.
Yes, it has. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we needed to cover. Is there anything you really wanted to cover before we wrap up here?
I feel pretty good about it. I got to show off my music stuff. That's fun.
Yeah. I feel like this was a really fun conversation, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, the link is in the description for Pony Island 2 Circus. I'm trying to remember.
Circus of Pandas. No. Panda Circus.
Panda Circus. Pony Island 2 Panda Circus.
Yeah.
Wishlist that below. Is there anything else you wanted to leave in the description, Daniel?
Nah, that's my big thing right now. Yeah.
Cool. Well, there's a ton of stuff that we didn't cover that I had on a list of questions. I'd love to have you on again.
Yeah, happy to
go through that stuff. I know we wanted to talk about game juice and game feel, but
yeah,
I'm sure you're busy and you got to run here. But, dude, thanks for coming on. That was so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had a great time.
All right, dude. Take it easy.
Yeah, you too.
Yep. Cheers. And by the way, if you're anything like me and you've always dreamt of getting paid to make your indie games, I have a super cool gift for you. It's a webinar below, totally free, and it's about how to turn a simple 15-minute demo into an actual paycheck. I've secured 6 figures multiple times with just a demo, ensuring I was able to go full-time indie and pay the bills before even finishing my game. Believe it or not, over 15,000 devs have checked out this free webinar. Now, maybe it's your turn. Click the link below to enroll for free, and you can save it for later, use it as a resource, and watch it whenever you want. I'll see you there.